Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Own Your Essence podcast, where we get to have deep transformational conversations with some of our favorite people. I am your host, April DeMille, and today we are going to be talking to Victoria Icenhower. She is the self-love scientist and the nationwide speaker for women's sexuality. Ooh, how taboo. I'm so excited.
Hi, April.
Hi. So I was just telling them that you are the self-love scientist and you're a speaker for sexuality, women's sexuality, right?
Yes.
Does that sound close? Do you want to go ahead and tell them your name and what you're doing so I don't butcher it all?
Oh, sure. My name is Victoria Icenhower. I go by the self-love scientist. I am aside from the scientist part, I am a public speaker. I do speak passionately on women's sexual health and wellness, also into pleasure, intimacy, and relationships. And I'm also a podcast host and for funsies, a Pilates teacher.
Oh, yes, because flexibility is important.
Because we gotta work those hip muscles.
For sure. And I love this. I love these topics. I was just saying, oh, this is so spicy and taboo. Let's fucking do it. Like I'm like, let's get into this good stuff. But you also left corporate world. Can we kind of backtrack a little bit and talk about, how that transition kind of came about, like what started your burnout and how you moved into this and then kind of pick up from there.
Yeah. Oh man. That was like a lifetime ago.
Was it? Oh
Right?
wow.
It feels that way, which is hilarious, right? But so I did actually so corporate would have been I started my business in 2021 and I left the corporate world right like a year or so before that. And what that looked like really. So picture it where I so I just finished college. I'm in a 10-year relationship and I got the job, so I'm like feeling really good. Like, yes, I finally made it in the world. I'm gonna make adult money. And the reality is, I wasn't in a job that I was passionate about, but as a woman, it was like, well, this is important. I need this job so I can pay my bills, support my family. And it was just really it was not a great environment for me. It was a heavily male dominated field
Oh
and
yeah.
it didn't matter whether or not I did go to school and have this bachelor's, which I was put on a project that was something I specialized in. I still wasn't one of the guys, one of the boys. It was, we'll bring her along. She's cute. Bring her. The client likes her. Um, and there were some situations where it was like, is this real? Like this is this is how you talk to people, talk to women. And but I didn't, people were in this for like 40 years. Like this is their life. And I was like, oh, this is hard. This isn't great. And so I was turning a lot to being out late. I would go out late, drink a lot, and just try to make like that was the thing. Like I work, my 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and then just go crazy on the weekends and then repeat, rinse and repeat. And honestly, I did not like the way that was how I was showing up. I didn't like the way that made me feel.
Right.
And I started seeking other ways to balance it out. Like maybe there's something else I could do. So I turned to yoga, which in turn I was obsessed with, and I wanted to become a teacher. And during that training, I uncovered a lot of personal trauma
Hmm.
and people pleasing. And so I worked not only to complete the certification, but I also got a life coach at the same time and realized I'm not doing the things I want to do.
Yeah.
And I was, it's interesting how the world kind of works, or, for me, it was like the universe is like, oh, yeah, you don't like that? Well, interesting in the world of government and contracts, it's not actually as secure as people think. And I was out of a job.
Hmm.
Funny enough, I was technically like the way it worked was, by contract and by money, which, when I think about it, I'm like, funny how that worked too. But, I won't go too deep into that, but I will say it was just, I remember coming home and I was terrified and I was sad. And my coach was like, but don't you think that's kind of a blessing? Because you knew deep down you didn't belong there in the first place. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, you're right.
Yeah.
And fast forward, I don't know how deep we want to go, but I did start my own business. I was doing coaching and yoga. I was doing group privates and workshops. And a lot of that was, me taking my experiences, taking the tools and creating that safety and space. But the really big wake up call was along this journey of just of self-discovery, of self-healing, of learning to unlearn and unfuck myself.
Yeah, for real.
For real.
That's really what happens.
I uncovered a lot of, I was, very closed-minded, very self-conscious. I started learning about my pleasure and my wounds around sex. And I
Mhm.
realized that, because I was also trying to get pregnant. And again, universe is like, I can't give this to you because you're not where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, you
And it
weren't
turned
ready.
out this relationship was not what I wanted. I was not for this person. And we ended things. We went through the divorce process. And I was like, wow, this is a huge midlife crisis for someone who hasn't even hit 30. Go me.
Right. Well, at least you get to get it over with early.
Right? I am blessed and very grateful that it was out of the stories you hear. It was very quiet, private, quick.
Yeah.
And however, when you go through something like that, like I understand burnout like makes you feel a certain way, but when you literally that moment was when I lost my entire identity because I built my life around that relationship.
Yeah.
I built who I was. That was my box. I was like, but I had the house and the marriage and this and that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh my God. But then on the other side of it, I was given a blank canvas. I was like, but who do you want to be? What do you want? And so that began this self-loving journey. And I was like, I'm going to take these experiences and these tools and I'm going to tell people like, we really need to start, confidence is not just putting on like, you got to wear the dress and do the face mask. It's like, no, you literally need to learn what feels good for you
Yeah.
so that when you are ready to open the space, or like for me, I was like, I'm ready to date again.
Yeah.
You can go in with the confidence because you know what your worth is. You know that you are literally the table.
Yeah.
Uh, and you won't let just anybody sit with you,
No.
at your table.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell,
Well,
origin story.
yeah. And when you talk about, basically having the rug ripped out from underneath you the way you had it when you're losing your identity and your marriage and the jobs and all the things, right? This is everything that you thought made up who you were. And then you transition into that blank canvas.
hmm
Not only are you grieving those versions of yourself, but also how do we even go, oh, I get to create who I want to be, but who the fuck do I even want to be? Like you have
Right.
to do all the things and try new hobbies and make new friends. And it's not just like this overnight thing where, oh, I'm going to do this. Like you don't even know what you like yet. It takes so much time to figure out what that is and what that's going to look like and how to rebuild something different. And it's a big process.
Yeah, most definitely. And you're right. It's like you not only you asking the hard questions, but that question in itself of who am I and who do I want to be? Who do I get to be? It's you're literally creating like your dream girl, your dream woman. It's like what does
Yeah.
she look like? How she dress? How does she speak? You get really, really specific.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And so you also so when you teach on sex and intimacy, what does that look like? Are you doing like group work, one-on-ones? Like what kind of workshops? Like how are you bringing that forward?
So aside from the public speaking, when it comes to the actual like inner deep work, that is done privately one to one.
Okay.
I did host a couple of group workshops years ago, but then I just was really, that's when I started getting into more public speaking, and I prefer the private because I enjoy helping women learn more about themselves than they realize, and it's just such a beautiful process. A lot of my clients are still connected with me today, and like we do have that relationship, but then there's also the professional relationship as well. And that when you ask what it looks like, so I always ask them, tell me, what's on their mind, what's going on, like just
Yeah.
tell me what's going, like tell me about you, but don't tell me like, oh, I'm a teacher, I'm a mom, or and my male clients, oh, I work here and do this. It's like, well, but who are you and what is it that you want? Like tell me what you want. And that's when they stumble.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to unraveling intimacy, we kind of start like very superficial,
Hmm.
very like on the top, like we're gonna start touching some certain words. And I say that because when I say touch, people are like, oh, like we're
Oh
getting
God.
oh
Yeah, yeah.
no.
Oh, the shame.
Yes. And that is one of the
It's a big one.
biggest blocks that
Yeah.
we have, especially with intimacy and pleasure. And so we kind of, we go through kind of like working our way in
Yeah.
with yourself. But it does start on the outside of asking those questions of, well, what does it mean to you? Like, what does intimacy mean to April? What does sexuality look like for you? How has, it's important for me to understand like how this has been shaped for you because we all have different, experiences. We've all been exposed to something, whether it's a form of trauma or, some women come to me and they're like, no, I had a very great childhood. I'm like, well, tell me about this and tell me about that. And it could be a religious, integration somewhere. So we have to figure out what is getting in the way so they can learn to let it go. And then we get into some juicy stuff, start scheduling some things and
Yeah.
getting them out of the comfort zone because what they're sitting in is also what's holding them back.
Yeah. And actually, on that note, I would like to share some of my personal experiences with this journey.
Yeah.
Um, I practice 6 years of celibacy. 6 years.
Oh.
I'm actually just barely coming out of that. So there's so many topics that, are interwoven in here because we talk about shame, we talk about money blocks. I mean, the moment I cut my humanity off from the waist down, um, I cut off my money resources too. They were completely connected, and I never knew that. And it wasn't until I started healing that shame and allowing myself to be a woman and it be okay with having pleasure that those things started moving again. So I decided to do celibacy in I think it was October of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed celibate until October of 2023. Um,
Wow.
and when I say celibate, I mean like not even self-love, not even like my own, like I was
Yeah.
banned from even touching myself, right? It was like an absolute until I can figure out what the fuck is wrong with me and how to make space for the right kind of love because I was picking all the wrong people. I had a horrible relationship with myself and everybody around me. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, until I can get a grip on what that's supposed to look like and how to attract, the right type of connections, I'm going to cut it all off until I can get my fucking head on straight. Right. And so it took me that long. Right. Until I was like, and then one day, I think one day, like it was 5 years into my celibacy journey, I reached out to another healer and I was like, hey, listen, I've gotten to a point where this has become kind of like counterproductive, right? Because like even though I've healed so much and I've done all this stuff, now I'm in a place where it's actually causing harm because I started having, the money financial blocks. I started having health issues. My uterus prolapse, all kinds of woman issues was coming up because I was denying my body what it needed. And I was so scared to give it that because I was like, oh, well, what if, I give it in the wrong way or right, you never know, right? So like,
Mm-hmm.
and I was so scared and out of practice. So I was like, nope, I'm just gonna act like she's dead. That's safer. right? Then doing all the things, and then my body was collapsing and my finances were collapsing and all the things. And so I had a friend of mine walk me through some sessions so I could, because I knew I had to make the shift, but I didn't know how to make the shift because I was still so scared of what that was going to look like. And so she did a couple sessions with me. And then the moment she did that, like my body just kind of took over and I kind of ran with it at that point. And so at the end of 2023, I did finally start dating for my first time.
Hmm.
And that was my first sexual experience in over that 6 years time. Um, and then I kind of lightly dated a little bit since then, but now I've been in a relationship, like a committed relationship, for a little bit. So
That's amazing.
yeah, it was, I'll tell you, I learned a lot about myself. I did. I learned a lot about myself. And I thought, oh, it takes a lot of strength to cut yourself off from humanity. But what I learned was it took a lot of fear. That's what it took. I was fucking terrified. It wasn't strength. I was a fucking scared little punk that didn't know how to fix this. So I was like, I'm just going to act like it's dead instead. Right. Like, so it was, what somebody might think is, oh, it take a lot of strength to do that. No, it doesn't. It just takes somebody that's scared to death of living. That's what it takes. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's to even go that far is like that's intense.
Yeah. Yeah. But I definitely learned a lot about the connection between our sexual chi and even our finances and our money and the energy that flows around that. They are so connected.
Yes.
And it was really shocking to see how they stopped together and they started together. And I was like, wow, I can't like unsee that. Um, and then the shame part, like, digging through all those pieces of shame and how most of the world is told that pleasure is a sin and blah 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 blah, like all the things around that, whether it's religious upbringing, which most of us have some sort of seasoning in our background with that, but like, yeah, it's a big journey for sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm actually very glad that you are out there giving this a voice because um, I know how bad I would have needed it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
And it's amazing how you found that connection with money. And I have learned, and maybe you experienced it too, but communication and the way you speak is in there as well.
Okay. I'll have to sit with that one. I mean, it probably is, right? Because it's still how
Yeah.
we're showing up. But yeah, yeah. Or maybe it's well, and also the thing that comes to mind, the other thing I think that comes to mind is how leaning into pleasure, how does that um I guess, do you have a lot of clients or do you teach on like divine masculinity and femininity?
Like in return, like in regards to balancing that for yourself, or
Maybe in more like polarization of relationships.
so I think that to me that looks the are you asking like do I teach it or help them identify?
Maybe both.
So we do, it's more of a broader sense because most of my clients are, they're generally like working 9 to 5, women. I say moms
Right.
because I've had a lot more moms recently.
Yeah.
And then they are women. It's interesting because they're exactly who I was in that same position. I was very masculine.
Right. That's why I was bringing it up because
Yeah.
like, yeah.
We want
Okay.
like women just they want to get everything done. They love the control. They love, but that's it's unfortunately like that's what we're being brought into this world to do. Like we're brought into literally be Wonder Woman, but we can't wear her uniform because that would make us a slut.
Huh. Well,
You
and
know?
also, we live in a world where men are afraid to lead now. And
Hmm.
so it forces us to be in our masculine a lot.
Yeah.
And so that throws off the balance anyway.
Yeah.
But hey, yeah, we're nice to look at. Yeah.
Nice to look at, but they're, for some men, they're afraid to approach. The clients I have are generally like they're masculine men, but it's not the masculine women think about, but it's they're stuck in, they want to know how to become more emotionally vulnerable. They want to dive a little bit deeper on intimacy, and they generally might have some blocks there that are about parental figures.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So, what would you say? I don't know if this is something you can share, but what would you say is one of the most common themes that comes up when you're working with women maybe outside of shame?
Aside from shame, there is, so I'm gonna kind of go to my most recent one. It was shame around, just her body confidence, but then there was also guilt. There was guilt the in the ways of so she's recently single, she's going out and dating again, but she doesn't feel she's worth telling them what she wants, or it's easy for her to like 'cause she's on the apps, and right now we're making good progress though because she's got some dates, but the problem is before she would be in these dates because she's one of the many women who tell me like I'm just so tired of dating terrible men. Or it's either there's terrible men, or um, she has these bad experiences where she leaves a date and she feels depleted, but that's because she's putting herself here, like my
Right.
hands down, like her expectations and standards are here, but that's where she feels is safe,
Yeah.
and she feels guilty for being like, actually, no, I do deserve like the bare minimum of opening my door or bringing me flowers or letting him pay the bill. And she
Yeah.
had an experience where it was getting very intimate and she was excited because you're getting back out there and this is going to be fun, but she didn't like the way things were going, and she wanted to say something, not for it to stop, but maybe try something different to help her experience more pleasure. But she just started stuttering, and then she just thought, oh, it's fine. Like, I'll just get it over with. And if he sleeps with me, he'll want to go out with me again. And she never did.
Right.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot of guilt in asking for what we want, especially for pleasure. And I will say on the other side of that, men also feel nervous and fear in the bedroom,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
because they're not mind readers. And that also goes for same-sex couples.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about the depletion part,
Yeah.
that one is such a great indication that you're not present and in your authentic um, self because you're either people pleasing, making yourself too available, or wearing a mask and acting like you're okay with meeting them where they're at. And that's fucking exhausting. That's why we leave feeling depleted.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's always a really great indication that something is misaligned.
exactly. Or it's that, or, some women will tell me like they had this feeling in their like their stomach, or when they try to talk, they cough a lot. And it's like, okay, this is not a good idea. We got some fine tuning we got to do for you, lady.
But you bring up a good point too when women are afraid to use their voice and talk about what they like because a lot of times guys already come with the feeling of inadequacy. So some men, I'm not going to say all men because some men are actually matured and have a little wisdom to them, but a lot of them don't yet. And so if you say, well, hey, I really love that you're doing this and taking that initiative. However, I think if you did it this way, I might enjoy it more. They'd be like, oh, what? Am I not good enough? Like that whole defensive, like because they're already feeling inadequate. And so it can be really hard for a woman to feel heard when it comes to let me show you how to love my body because no one knows how to love it more than I fucking do. Hello.
Yeah.
So instead of using that moment as a collaboration, this is teamwork and communication is information, right?
Mhm.
They come yielding their swords and like, oh my God, you fucking bitch. Like you hurt my feelings because now you've destroyed my manhood. Like it doesn't have to be this battle.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's, they're looking for, I'm looking for this to be a win-win, but
Yeah.
for women, they don't say anything. There's that fear of like, what will he say and think of me? But then there's also like, I need to stay where it's content because we women are natural people pleasers. I'm here to make everybody happy, even at the expense of myself. And that's not okay. I'm trying to break that norm. Like, that's not okay. You got to put your own oxygen mask.
Right, right. There's a reason why you have to fill your own cup first, right? Because, yeah, yeah, for sure. Because we can't give from a place of depletion anyway. Like, how good's that? That's not really going
Well,
to do
you
any
said it
good.
yourself, like that the fact that like you can't, if we can't express to someone what you need, especially like being intimate and having sex, it's like, then how are they supposed to know? And like, even when you're dating a great person, there are situations where women are like, I love my partner. He is so great, but I always feel terrible in the bedroom because X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, have you told this to them? And then they express their fears. Like, I don't want them to think less than, and I just want them to be happy. I'm like, but this is about you.
Right.
It gets
That's
to
the,
be about you. And if you
yeah,
know what feels good, your partner deserves to know that as well.
yeah, for sure. Because it's not like a one man show. Hello. I
Oh,
mean, I
no.
guess it could be, but
It
it's not supposed to be, right?
could
Teamwork's
be when you
there
want it to be, but when there's
for
another
sure.
person involved, it can
Yeah.
be even better. Like the statistic for women having unsatisfying sex is 56%.
Well, and
56.
also I've even learned how couples like to spice things up. Sometimes they will like to use toys or whatever, but even there's so much shame around that. Like uh like I'll give some examples from past connections in my life
Mhm.
where that conversation has come up and men feel so threatened. Well, make sure the toys aren't bigger than me. Make sure that, things like that. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow, like, you know what I mean? Like that whole mindset is just so programmed.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's crazy.
I think some of the wild things I've heard was, well, you shouldn't need, like I need stimulation. So,
Right.
um, one of my experiences told me, he was like, well, he's like, I think there might be something wrong with you if you need that. And I was like, oh no, honey. No, there isn't. But I do like, because sometimes, obviously with the clitoris, like sometimes she's ready, sometimes she just needs a little extra, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's some of the comments like that, you're like, am I broken? No, no. I know
Yeah.
I'm fully aware of what I need when I need it.
Yeah, for sure. That again, that goes back to communication. Like this is information for you because we're teamwork. How else are you supposed to figure out how to love me if you're not going to tell me when I'm the one who's an expert at loving myself, right? We know our bodies,
Right.
right? But also you bring up another good point because that is a subject I've even wondered about because yes, women have these pleasure spots that need certain amount of stimulation, but also is it possible that we get desensitized because of the use of certain things or overuse of certain things and trying to discern that balance? Does that make sense?
Are you saying like the myth that using a vibrator could make you less sensitive to
Yeah,
sex?
yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Yeah,
And it has not been proven
okay.
that that can happen. So I do want like listeners to understand if you use your vibrator, there is I would say caution that there can be a point where if you're using it in whether it's a self practice or with a partner, you could become overly sensitive, like your clit does
Yeah,
engorge. And
yeah,
then I've heard, the feedback is I'm very sensitive right now. I can't, you
right.
don't touch it. And it's like, well, you also took a vibrating, thing to it. And
You
sometimes
overstimulated it.
it's overstimulated, so you need
Yeah,
to allow it to cool down. But there isn't enough evidence scientifically that we
yeah,
see that over time, like because obviously we're just now getting more sexual medicine journals. But there isn't any actual evidence that says, overuse of using a vibrator. Like if you were a woman using your vibrator every day, I'm not sure. I can't say that that's going to desensitize you. I will say I do encourage my clients and I do it myself. Like it is I would encourage you to try it without it
Okay.
because there comes a point, when you're intimate with someone and you may not have it.
So, so on this, following this little pathway that we have going, I'm going to ask you too about men masturbating because again, there can be desensitization when men are so used to pleasing themselves and using pornography and all that. And that
Yes.
is something I firmly believe in. So, does it just show up different for men and women when it comes to that?
To pornography?
Yeah, well, and I guess I don't know if you, I assume that you probably have conversations around pornography and that kind of use in the line of work that you're doing. Um, but when it comes to like men and masturbation, there is a huge problem with men becoming desensitized because of that.
So, are you asking my opinion on that
Yeah,
or what I
yeah.
hear behind the scenes?
Maybe you could do both.
Okay. Um, so yes, the issue with the exposure men, but it's the one that worries me is the younger men
Okay.
they are watching porn. I mean, everybody watches porn. Like, I'm not gonna yuck your yum. The issue I'm seeing as they're using that as a reference and they're thinking like if I apply this same method of what I watched to my partner, it'll be the
Hmm.
same experience. Um, what I do find fascinating is it's literally like their focus and their idea of sex is less on what the woman looks like, which has been actually, this is feedback from my male clients. They never use what they see in the woman, which is kind of nice to hear because, women are sexualized a lot. But it is, well, if it's what I'm watching and then I try that on my partner and they don't like it, and it's like, well,
Then
yeah,
they feel, yeah,
they
yeah, I
feel
see
like
what you're
a
saying.
failure.
Yeah,
So
because women all experience pleasure differently.
exactly. And it's
Yeah.
porn has I like probably one of the biggest trends is like, they go hard. They
Well,
go
and
hard.
that's why.
And they
So
ask the whole, did you come? And it's like, oh
yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah.
It's like,
Well,
back up.
and
You
it's
don't do that.
yeah, it's acting and it's editing and it's also dangerous. So just so you know, I'm 1,000,000% against pornography
Hmm.
in no matter what. Um, people have their, different strokes for different folks, but 100%, I think it's the most damaging, addictive thing out there,
Hmm.
next to alcohol and drugs, right?
Yeah.
And I actually think it's even worse than those because I've seen it rip families apart. I've seen it create false expectations of what intimacy is supposed to look like. Just like you're saying, people are having, some it programs them different, right? And then it creates their own inadequacies because of that.
It
Um,
can, it does also shortchange and shortcome the stuff
mhm,
in the bedroom. Like people will sit there and we're trying to work on this as well, is encouraging the conversations because sometimes they'll know when you're in your head, or women won't admit this, but they'll be fantasizing about something to get off as well as their partner. Like their partner is like trying to visualize what they saw in the porn.
right.
Um, and it's like, it's just like the whole TikTok
Well,
problem.
and
We
it's so
our attention
performative,
span.
right? It's so performative.
Yes,
Like
yes.
you're only doing it for the outcome of the performance, like the end goal, right? The end
Yeah.
game. But what people are not getting from that is what true intimacy is before that moment happens. What your home life looks like, how you're communicating, where's the trust, where's the safety. That's where all the true intimacy is building and brewing. And none of that, obviously is taken into consideration. There's no context there. It's just like, here's this fake idea of what bedrooms are supposed to look like and have fun with that, you know?
Yes, they treat it like the Olympics. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Like, this is no. Or they'll tell you what they want to do. I'm like, what makes you think I want to do that?
yeah,
Well, it looked great online. Oh yeah, okay, thank you. I
yeah, for
have what I
sure.
need.
Yeah. Well, that sets the tone.
Right?
Um, So I feel like, is there anything else that you want to share when it comes to that kind of work that we haven't talked about?
For the work or
Just for like your coaching when it comes to, sex, intimacy, self-discovery, redefining, all of those things. Is there other?
I mean the way everybody's different and like that's the thing. That's why I made the comment earlier. Like I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. Like I've had wonderful people and I've had the honor to work with different people and during their journeys they find things that they, take a lot of pleasure in. So I always encourage people, even in interviews, I'm like, your self-discovery journey is not going to look like your best friend's. It's
Totally.
not going to look like, Kim Kardashian or anybody else's. Like what gets you excited is exclusively for you.
Yeah.
And so learning what that is and understanding and accepting that it can change, it's allowed to change.
Yeah, it
And
totally does.
being patient, like I know I really appreciate your story about being celibate because for women who, whether it's a trauma experience or being celibate or honestly just starting to recognize that, oh wait, I can experience pleasure, which is why I said, I schedule my clients to pleasure themselves or have sex with their partners. But the pleasuring part is so they can create that connection, that physical connection
Hmm.
because we're so deprived of it nowadays. It's so much worse
Yeah.
than it has been ever. Like we're so thirsty for connection, but we don't know what we're doing when we get there. So I always encourage people to take the time to schedule it. Like instead of scrolling and I know Bridgerton just came out with a new season, but hold back for a second or watch it while you do it. I don't know, do your own thing, honey. But like the more you get to know yourself on a vulnerable level, the better your experiences are going to be, aside from just not just the bedroom, but like you said it so well, like your finances get better. Your confidence is connected to that,
Mhm.
so your life gets better.
Well,
So
yeah,
I,
because I mean, you do have to schedule those dates with yourself because I think you're right. We're all compromised of biologics, right? So we've got hormones and dopamines and oxytocins and all these things running through all of us, right? Testosterones, all the estrogens, all the things, right? So when those are flowing, then the rest of the universal chi is flowing too.
Mhm. But you also, if you're like for me, and I'll put myself under the bus, I love to work. I love hauling ass, seeing all my clients, doing all my recordings. But then I hit burnout and I'll sit there and I journaled about this, and I love that I I did, I was like, I need to schedule more, pleasure practices. And it just giving myself that day, the day off or that hour or, giving yourself those buffers. And it, maybe it doesn't look like you're like, oh, I'm not going to use my lunch break to please myself. It's like, but if you get to know yourself, date yourself, romance yourself, then you're going to notice that everything else in your life gets to, like, it's in your control, it's on your time.
Mhm.
And so you'll probably start saying no to things that you don't like. You'll start saying yes to the things that actually excite you and turn you on in other ways.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think that that's super important is for people to have that any sense of idea of what who they are and what they even like before they can relay that to someone else.
Yes, and it's just, don't give yourself away so easily. The right people, like if you're dating, like I get it. Like I know I was there. Even like in all my breaks, like I would date for a while, stop, and date again, and then stop. And like we all at the end of the day, like I love physical touch. It's one of my love, it's everybody's love language. But you will conserve so much more energy if you keep that to yourself. And then when you're ready, you can say like, yeah, I would love to go home with you, or yeah, come to my house, or oh yeah, like let's have fun. Like I know there's a lot of like mixed feelings and reviews about, you should have sex, you have one life, and we're built for pleasure. And I get it, but in sex itself, you're exchanging energies and cells, and some women walk out feeling light as a feather, some women walk out feeling defeated.
Yeah.
And it's like that's a big sign. And you probably know it, you probably feel it. it's okay for you to say no,
Right.
and you're doing yourself a favor, and the right people will respect that. And
Yeah.
then if they don't, then guess what? They weren't meant to be there in the first place.
Totally. Totally a firm believer of that. You will naturally attract the ones that are for you.
Exactly.
And on the way, you get to practice, this is going to sound awful, with low-hanging fruit to figure out what works for you or not. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it sounds awful, but also whatever.
Yeah, like some clients, like, are you talking about like sleeping with like people or just?
Yeah, like, I mean, I guess when you're out there, so you said some of your clients are like on dating apps and stuff like that, and you get to experience it's practicing what you preach, really. That's really what it is. It's
Yeah,
putting practice in motion because you've got all these thoughts about what you want in your head, but you're not practicing them in real time until you're out there putting yourself out there like that, right? And then you get to go, okay, I liked this about this person. I didn't like this about this person. So again, it's low-hanging fruit and trying to kind of like filter through all the bits and pieces that you can create. And you take the little pieces that work for you, and at some point you can put them all in one big masterpiece, right? And along the way, the world just keeps taking you serious because you are.
exactly. Your world will light up the moment you're turned on. The rest of the world will be too.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with that one for sure. So Love and Lattes, right? Is this your podcast, Love and Lattes?
Yes.
And so I assume you have lots of amazing conversations like this on your podcast.
Actually, there's a few, and this season especially, we're getting more into sex because I did notice it was a little lackey. Last year was a lot about travel and relationships, and then I started realizing, when I look at the themes, I was like, we need to talk a little more about sex. I talked about it, I think, 3 times last year, and oh no, I didn't. I actually talked about it a little bit more. I did talk about I have a pleasure principles workbook that I use, and I talked about that a lot. But to answer your question, we're going to be getting even deeper into that this year, especially for the month of February and March. I actually just recorded a episode about, why we're so, I don't know about you, but I watched Heated Rivalry and everybody around me watched it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to talk about why we're obsessed.
So I have never seen it. I don't watch TV. But I have a
Oh,
friend that has told me about it. And so
yeah.
I only know a little bit about like what it's about or the theme about it or whatever, just because of my friend that told me about it. But I haven't watched TV for like, I think since 2009. So yeah, I'm
I
out of
love
that world. Yeah.
it.
But I've heard it's some juicy stuff. That I have heard.
Yes. Yeah, it's juicy, but it's literally a mirror of what women really want. When it comes to like commitment, desire, being chosen, and then there's the anticipation of what they share. But yeah, this year, this season for the podcast, we're going to have a lot more episodes surrounding intimacy, sex, because I just feel like um now more than ever, like recently, it's becoming, this is a very interesting time we live in where people are like everybody wants to be in a relationship, but everybody don't wants to be in a relationship, and people are afraid to have sex, and people don't know what they like. And I do feel like my heart goes out to people because when they tell me, I hear this a lot, April. They're like, there's no good people, there's no good men out there. And I'm like, let me tell you something. Because there are. There's great women, there's great men out there, but we're just allowing these old programs to what
Yeah.
we were exposed to, what we learned from, what we see, and we choose to think that that is the bar. And I'm like, no, no, we got to bring that up high, but it's going to take some reprogramming.
Yeah. Because what's that saying where it's like you have to be the person that you want to marry, right? You kind of have to be that person that like if you want the good man, you have to be the good woman. So again, that means you have to be the person that's not settling. You can't keep dating those old versions, those outdated programs, those things that didn't work for you. If you want the good man or you want the good woman, then you have to step into your truth, and that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, you have to become, that's why if you're not dating and you're just working on yourself, then it's literally like it's time for you to romance yourself
Right,
first.
right,
Learn to date yourself and become that person so
right.
that then it works like the law of attraction,
Yeah, for
Or what
sure.
do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Um, so Victoria, is there the quickest way for people to find you online?
Yes, you can go to theselflovescientist.com and that has my links. You can always schedule a free call with me. It's just to connect and see what's going on, see if we're good to work together if you have questions. And you can also go to Apple Podcasts and listen to Love and Lattes.
Yes,
And you can email me victoria.lotuslifestyle@gmail.com.
perfect. Victoria, thank you so much for being with me today and speaking for our audience. I think this is such a great topic, and I think pleasure definitely needs a voice or several voices, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you're one of those voices out there in the world doing this work because there's such a need for sure. Um, do you have anything else that you want to add before we say goodbye to the audience?
Just to let people know that pleasure is your birthright, and I've heard a lot of different reasons why people feel that it's not. So I just want you to know that what you feel towards it is not your fault. However, like you are worthy to feel good. You get to feel good, and life feels so much better when you get to know you. That's the best, like, and it's the most and only relationship you have is the one you have with yourself. That's the one that's guaranteed. That's the one that's going to be secure. So once we get that down, it's a cakewalk. You can do anything.
Yeah, definitely smooths the rest of the paved out road for you.
Right?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Victoria. Do you want to help me say goodbye to everybody?
Yes. Thank you so much, guys.
Bye,
Bye.
you guys. See you next time.